Hey everybody, welcome to the very first episode video installment of Restaurant Tech Trends. I'm still not exactly sure what this is going to be. It might be a podcast, it might be just some videos that I post to LinkedIn every now and then. But I do know that the point of it is to meet with innovative leaders in restaurant tech, pick their brains, learn about what's going on in the industry, and learn a little bit more about some of the projects that they're working on. Today, I'm joined by Randy Barnett, who's the Vice President of Innovative Tech Systems and Data at the Melting Pot. And for those that don't know, I would say the Melting Pot is a fine dining or a highly elevated casual dining chain known mainly for serving fondue and delivering an interactive dining experience. Welcome, Randy.
Thanks for having me, Justin. Glad to be here. Yeah, Melting Pot, we've been around for about 50 years, so a lot of people know who we are.
For sure, you definitely have very strong mind share out there. So I was just thinking, Randy, about how we met. We actually really haven't known each other for that long. I think it was just last summer, right as we were in the early stages of getting Incept AI off the ground. And I actually think we met here on LinkedIn. And you were one of the very first members of our advisory board. Um, I just want to say I really believe a big part of who we are in general is a result of the people that we choose to surround ourselves with. And Randy, I am so glad to have met you and to have you be one of those people I surround myself with. And I just wanted to start, by thanking you for all of your help as we launch this new startup. Getting off the ground is definitely one of the hardest parts.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, Justin. This goes both ways. I've learned so much from you guys and really impressed with what you're doing, and I'm happy to be along for the ride.
Thanks, man. Maybe Randy, can you start us off and just tell us a little bit about your role and your time in the restaurant industry?
Yeah, I head the technology department up over here at Melting Pot. We're 90 plus locations, so the entire tech stack it falls under me for both the restaurant support center and all of our restaurants. That includes implementing, supporting, and future proofing the business. Applications is a big part of what we do. So business systems, POS,
Mm,
reservation systems, back of house systems, all of those things, and supporting those is a big part of what we do as well. So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell. I've been in the tech world for 35 plus years,
wow.
probably longer than you are old. But
No, not quite.
you know, uh, and the last close to 20 years has been primarily in restaurant and retail.
Mm,
Did a stint with a company called Zoe's Kitchen, which was a publicly traded company back in the day. Did some work with a company called MyFit Foods, which was sort of a hybrid at the time between restaurant and meal prep. There's a lot of those out there now. This was probably one of the first. So yeah, so that's my background.
awesome. Well, it's really cool that you're leading the whole tech department today at the Melting Pot. I am very interested in the fact that you have this word innovative in your title. I would imagine that that exposes you to a lot of emerging trends in the space. And I'm curious what you see today as some of the most important tech trends in restaurants.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the title is one of those things that you have to live up to, right? For sure. Every day we put forth whatever we think is the best. But yeah, everything we do has to be foundational at its core. But yes, the innovation is something that we're always striving to do better. Particularly, the restaurant business has traditionally been slow to adopt technologies of any kind, quite frankly.
Right.
Within the last 5 or 6 years, it's getting a lot better. So we've actually gotten elevated to some degree just by necessity, but a lot of it I think is what we bring to the table. So we're partnering with our marketing teams, we're partnering with our operations teams, which has helped us. We're not just the guy sitting in the corner anymore, fiddling with switches and routers. We're actually bringing something to the table for the business.
So I want to actually dive into that a little bit more because you mentioned that restaurants are historically or have been historically slow to adopt technology. I see that same trend as well, or that same just sort of industry factoid. What are some of the things that you've done to work with ops, to work with marketing, to partner with other executive leadership to create a forward leaning technology culture or an openness to adopting technology within a restaurant chain?
Yeah, well, it doesn't hurt that we've got a really good team here. Our team at the Restaurant Support Center is fantastic. But I think early on, since I've been here, it's the first thing was partnerships and trust. You
I
have
see.
to align yourself with the right people at the right level, up and down the chain. But look, you can do anything you want, but if it doesn't work and you can't put something out there that's viable to the business and helps move it forward, it doesn't matter. So I think
Right.
that's been something that I've really worked hard on building those relationships and building that level of trust. I mean, we involve as many people as we possibly can with all the decisions that we make. We like to make sure that our restaurant operators are involved in those things. So as they feel a piece of ownership, it helps with that adoption, right? Because
I
they
see.
all have contributed in some way. So yeah, it's been very helpful to do it that way.
Just out of curiosity, what are some of the things that you do to help your operators get involved? Just seeing them out in the field, or do you have like conference or meetings that you do? What are some of those things?
Yeah, we do all of that. Of course, we have an annual conference, which most restaurant organizations do. But I think really what's important for us is when we take on, you know, a project of any size. For example, let's say a POS rollout.
Right.
We did back in 2018. We formed a task force to help us understand what the needs were and help us, make that decision. So to me that was critical. And again, you got buy-in because they feel a sense of ownership. And quite frankly, you're getting information from them that we might not have.
For sure.
We don't pretend to know everything that happens all day long, every day inside the four walls. So if you keep that communication up, it works. And we've done a couple of those over time. When we do an RFP of any sort, we involve our restaurant operators and our franchisees.
Awesome, man. Well, you mentioned the POS rollout, and that is obviously probably one of the largest technology initiatives that happen at any restaurant. I am curious to learn a little bit more about either whether it's POS or it's been another tech initiative that you've worked on at the Melting Pot. What is one that's been really successful, and maybe you can share with us why, and then maybe what's one that you thought might be successful, but for whatever reason, it just didn't generate the results that you'd hope for, and what are maybe some tips you can give to other restaurant tech executives so they don't make those same mistakes.
Well, POS was foundational. I mean, if we didn't have that to begin with, we weren't going to get anything afterwards, and we all knew that. When I came on board 8 years ago, we had multiple POS systems out in the field. Um, they were working, they were fine in a lot of ways, but it limited us in some of the things that we could do and that we knew we wanted to do in the future. So that was a big part of where we are today, was building that foundation. So I would absolutely recommend having that good, solid, infrastructure in place, if you will, from a business perspective. Um,
For sure.
Again, formed a task force, took our time, did a did a pretty extensive pilot. We piloted at 3 locations, which is it's common within the restaurant industry that you do pilots and you take your time, and it sometimes it takes a little longer to do it that way, but you learn things along the way that you might not have otherwise learned. And again, you're building that trust. You've got something that you can show. Hey, this works. We're not just going to ram something down your throat. Your peers are using it, and it's the right thing to do. Um, you know, Along the way, obviously we've learned a lot of things. I wouldn't say we've had anything that's just crash and burn, but we've had
Well, that's
several
good.
things that, yeah, well, yeah, yeah. But there's always something that doesn't work quite like you would hope that it would, at least initially, and you have to tweak it. So just be prepared to make adjustments sometimes on the fly. Don't be closed-minded. If something comes up later, don't be so narrow in your focus that you can't think of, outside the box a little bit and say, maybe there is a better way to do that. Listen, right? Listen to people, listen to your partners, have good partners along the way that you can trust to give you really good advice and not just try to sell you something.
For sure. I'm curious, as you look at innovation in this space in general, what are some of the technologies that you think are the most promising and really ripe for adoption today? And then what are some of the technologies that you see that you would characterize as being sort of more on the horizon, or they're very interesting but might not really be ready for prime time?
I think the answer to both of those questions may be the same thing, quite honestly, but it's just pieces of it. So,
I see.
uh, you know, AI, for example, I think there's a lot of promise there. Interest in AI has increased interest in data as well. So, people that want to have AI in their system for analysis, they got to have really good clean data. So that's also helped elevate, the interest in data. I mean, 7, 8, 9 years ago, you couldn't find good clean data anywhere, right? You were trying to pull it from 50 different places, but now that's helped that. So that's sort of helped, a lot of things, right? With that interest of AI has really opened up people's eyes as to what the possibilities are. Um, I think you have to first invest in the data in order for AI to really help you from particularly from a reporting perspective. So I think there's a lot of promise there, a lot of different things. I think some of the things that aren't quite ready, at least from my perspective, um, the drone food delivery, I'm not 100% sold on that yet. I think it's working. I think it's going to work at some point, but we've all seen the news. You've got air traffic regulations, safety concerns, weather limitations, all of those things with drone food delivery. That somebody's going to figure that out. But I think some of the early adopters, you know just didn't get that right.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I just see so many different applications, and I think it can be really confusing to know which ones are actually there. I mean, some of the cool ones I see are like, you've got guys that are doing, vision AI for inventory management. You've got vision AI for tracking like walk-offs and, guest behavior inside the restaurant. You've got, like, we're doing voice AI for ordering. You've got AI for, helping to, order the right amount of food at the right time. Um, I don't know. I'm not really sure which one of these things are all the way there. I think I totally agree with
well,
you on the drone piece, certainly being really, really early. I'm not sure
yeah,
if any of those use cases. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think the vision AI is interesting, that you brought that up. I think it's got a lot of potential. There's some big names that are using it. I think Kava just announced this week that they were doing a really big play there. Theirs is
yeah. They
probably
did.
more theirs is probably more for their kitchen. But I've seen and heard other things that are happening with the video AI. I j- I don't know that it's quite there yet. I mean, particularly
Mm,
for us as a full service restaurant, some of the things I'd like to see happen with video AI just haven't quite matured enough yet. For example, I might want to use it to understand when a guest is ready for their next course, or when a guest needs a drink or something to that
right.
effect. And they're working on it. It's just not quite there yet. I think I just don't think it's has the ability to hit widespread adoption just yet.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And the other one I see on Vision AI that I think is getting there, but not quite there. I think when you've got food prep using sort of the Chipotle style with the overhead cameras and, like, detecting like quantities of ingredients that are there, I think that is pretty good. But I think once you start moving out of that type of meal prep situation, the technology still, from what I've seen, has a ways to go.
I would
Um,
agree with that.
never a dull moment. Things are always changing. Randy, I want to thank you for being my guinea pig here on Restaurant Tech Trends. Really, really excited to be working with you. Want to thank you again for all of your help, and looking forward to collaborating with you in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Justin. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.